Good evening, everyone. We are live on the 1 hour Supramental show, and today's topic is how to make contact with double. So I changed a little bit in technical solutions, which means that we can't see people on the grid anymore. We see with me there are Rael. Hello, Rael. Okay, so normally you must have appeared a little bit. I'm checking, and that's it. It's good. And I hear you. So I'm going to introduce the subject to a short excerpt from video.
I married myself. I'm very happy together. Candlelight, dinners home, lovely times. This time it's gonna last. This time it's gonna last forever, forever, forever.
There you go. So that was good. I think there are a few people who who know that because it's a soap opera that just came out. It's called Star, and so there it's a dancer who dance to music where group and lyrics. Basically, it's I married myself, and so on and so forth, and it's going to last for days. I was able to watch before my eyes that it's a bit of a story about double and fusion with double. So we already did a show on intuition, how to develop one's intuition, and we saw that, part of our intuition was thoughts, even words that were sent to us by double. So here, we would like tonight, I would like to dig a little deeper into this question and say, hey, how was going on with this relationship with double, and how finally, as double is someone who apparently knows everything, because when I say someone, it's an entity of some kind, but who knows everything since he gives us good thoughts. That is to say that he knows between two, if we hesitate between two solutions, he gives us the solution that will make us, or warnings about tension. And besides, I have just this morning mission of Tonight Show, and it happened to me. So I was driving my scooter, and in the distance, I see someone who was in their car, who was parked, and then I finally had the feeling that he was going to do stupid things, and so I slowed down to make distance myself, and and apparently apparently apparent on a scooter, the person in the car had caused me a problem. So indeed, he did something really stupid when he went out parking. So I took him as a little exercise to finally a little example that my double sent me this morning so that I could talk about it tonight, as if to say, well, here's a relationship that I saw, a relationship that I had with an affair that I had with Jean-Luc. Good evening. Good evening to everyone. There you go. So we started talking about double and the liaison with double. Since I have a small example of double, and one of a feeling that I had this morning, and indeed, and of what I can do. I'm gonna ask you if you have examples. Well, you were the first to be connected. Do you have an example like that of things that happened to you recently in my life? Then who sent me.
Good question. I think I lived especially many things without unconsciousness. The fact that I wasn't fully aware that there was someone giving me information. So suddenly I thought more of informational or of totally natural what's only what we are. It's something much more complete, I think. I can know them distance from time, integrations, doubles compared to the relationships. I had romantic relationships. For example, I feel that with after alone, it's not going well. It's just feeling that with the after it doesn't just work very well, that it would end. Even things that seemed a little quiet against us. And finally, well, things went like we did. Well, compared to other choices in life, I have means, I have presence, but as expressive as possible. It was a little said that it was a little raw, without saying to himself, without perhaps ingesting them in the soft weights of saying dictate the law, but rather than passing small tips in a subtle way.
And there, I finally understand that you're talking to us about programming. That is to say, the little tips on the different references of your life. That's it. We understood that well or not at all. I see the problem as something in the background of the fact that suddenly I consider that I conduct activities in my life because I have a certain program. But suddenly, that's what requires the fact that it's something that's part of me. I don't think I have the subtlety of being able to access my programming dynamically to say, well, I'm going to and for that, it's unconscious. In fact, I tell you, what name in the programming, in fact, I wouldn't necessarily like to be happy. Okay. Well, actually, it's me who, I'm misinterpreted what you told me. So what you told us, I thought you were talking about programming, but in fact, when we talk about other things, there are demonstrations, but double compared to many aspects of my life, right? For example, of family adolescence, of professional relationship. I have strong feelings that suddenly some things are more adapted than others, but I see something from a long external point of view because sometimes I have the desire to do such work and do such activity, but I have the strong feelings that suddenly it can discredit me. Spending time, it could be that good, and maybe something good, and it could be good. But it's also paternel, quoi. È quelque chose d'extérieur que de trop vu. Experiences certain decisions. It's not tonal, but without the feeling of having a father behind me, especially saying he did something that I see then. It's some kind of intuitions about what moments, the present moment, that is to say that, or wherever it is professionally at Olympus, Mario, and good evening. Hello? Hello?
You hear me? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, so at that time, okay, well, thank you, Red. Jean-Luc, do you want to give us examples of at least one example of liaison, finally, of communication of your doubt? That is to say, has you have sent a tip or yeah, he gave you some positive advice on gender, well, on an action, doing an action or not doing action, or or I don't know.
because everyone has just missed. It's just that it will never give you positive or negative advice because you're polar. And if it's polar, it's because it's the astral. So double, it doesn't live in the astral. So as soon as we're connected with fleece, we won't be able to be with it. Okay. That is to say that as soon as we say to ourselves, ah, that's positive, that's negative, you can be sure that it's not him. That's already a good criterion. Well, those who are going to tell me why, what,
because precisely the you give an opening and not a solution, but an opening to something that cannot be polarized. So already, what I mean, I don't want to be more mad, be royalist than the king as a miracle, but there is something that because they completely resembles us, and so he speaks the same language like us. But if we base ourselves on the fact that we didn't arrive on Earth for the first time, it's because we were already in our body with only one object, because French was not the same. So first, it's a good thing to think. So if he doesn't speak French, he only speaks one language, and whatever the language, we can have contact with its duplicate. So it's just that somewhere it doesn't speak like us. Okay? I'm talking about this principle. It's just that there is the language that I found that we can discuss with contact. It's its creativity. Why? Because when you have a creative contact, you can continue on this creative contact. You can enter this creative contact, and he will be able to develop your progress in language and communication and exchange, which means that, in fact, when we have direct contact, we have what could be called the creative approach of double, which means that he imagined that he speaks creative, you speak creative, you will hear yourself. Complete proto and mathematics you have to be able to have awareness, and awareness is the beginning of alphabet, the beginning of the vocabulary with which you can get in touch with double. That is to say that he teaches us as we go along to speak French, but to speak double, if you can do. And when we speak, we start to speak with him from a creative point of view. We start to have an exchange that is being done a little more solid, that is being done a little more coherent. And we realize that as we become more and more creative from time to time, we have someone who is their contact, who comes to add things to you on your creative basis. That is to say, you communicate with something with a plan, let's say, and in addition, you have something that will add something more to you. And that's something more, you can manage to answer on it. And that's where you'll be able to have an exchange. So having exchanges with him, it's possible. That's doable insofar as we have realizations every morning or creative contact whenever we want. And That's it. That's all I know right away.
Thank you, Jean-Luc. So yes, but for you, you were saying when we have finally, when we chat, finally, I don't know how you expressed it anymore, but basically we talk about charges because yes, that's it. Yes, in exchange, that is to say that it goes in a direction, contact, human beings, and then human beings respond to contact. That is to say, me.
Human being speaks about a need, and contact meets the feasibility or reality of the need. There you go. That's more how you have to see it. There you go. But precisely, you say the human being speaks and the contact responds. That is to say that here there really is. It's in your example. It's we hear it while the human being hears his contact.
Yes, because, well, it seems to me automatically he understands what is said. He understands the feasibility, for example. You're going to say, I want to win the lottery, an example. I want to win the lottery. And you, right? And then he's gonna answer you what is feasibility, what is the need that there is. If you don't need to buy a car, it's simply desire or insecurity of survival. It works well for them because on the one hand, your question it's not honest. On the other hand, not based on something real, and moreover, your response is more an expectation of of a test of this organization, so that a real Yeah, of course. Yeah, because, well, if I take my personal case where, well, suddenly, so I don't understand. On the other hand, well, the creative aspect, well, I have it partly, well, I have a small part of it, for example, to do this show and so on. And it's often that I finally, when I prepare a show where I imagine the sequel, well, I have a whole bunch of ideas that happen to me about the development of either a show or another project in parallel and so on. That is to say, I have an influx of new ideas that I hadn't thought of until now, and then, well, who go in the direction of the development of my projects. But it was a need that was there.
I hope so. But normally, it's going to happen anyway. Well, yes, it happens. It's normal. It happens. It needs, therefore, realization. That's what I mean. It's finally the impermanence. Well, yes, it fell on itself. It's a dimension. It's
Marie-Olympe, you're going to give us examples finally. An example of contact with your double. Doesn't look like.
In fact, I wouldn't be the, as just said Jean-Luc, for me, the first time when really, how can I say it? The only time when really I had something clear and precise that came to me, well, it was 5 years ago. So it was quite lockdown, precisely. And I asked myself a lot of questions about what's next for me, because things that were going to move, and I was good. I posed. I had my situation. Well, anyway, I trained, let's say, in quotes. I wouldn't know how to say what I was expressing before, what is before receiving this message, or did I ask a question? Did I don't remember that. On the other hand, what froze me a little is that that day, in fact, at a very precise moment, all of a sudden, I received very clearly, you have to make yourself available there. Open the quotation marks, close the quotation marks. And this thing appeals to me, you see, because in fact, I of the dialogue, finally, of the inner dialogue, or even the verbal one, the fact of speaking alone, so to speak. That moan wasn't like usual, so I can't say if it's, well, I don't write it down on well, who sent me these messages. In any case, what is certain is that today, 5 years later, it takes meaning, because indeed, well, I made myself available to even. So my husband is the only.
Mario, the sound is not good. Is it just that you can maybe cut the image? Sorry, but you close your camera and what you've just said for 30 seconds, if you can say it, because we didn't hear the end. That's good. The sound is there. Yeah, the sound is a bit okay. So what exactly, but no, what to say is that in fact it's the only, how to say, it's still free in my memory. And you see, I close my eyes and I see the moment when it happened, when I was, the posture I had, and then my surprise of receiving that. So I couldn't say that I heard and that I didn't hear a voice. It looks like what Jean-Luc was saying. That is to say, it's as if I had understood an information. In fact, I didn't hear a voice. It's as if I had deciphered it, but impempantly, I wouldn't say that I heard a voice. Oh, indeed, the way a little more abstract to communicate with this double. Yes, I have the feeling that it is done. What extremely what is there is that indeed it requires an XXL presence.
What makes that I don't know. You see, give other examples that are also branded. We create that the previous example, which for me came out of the ordinary. There you go. Let's say that like that. You put into account and you put into practice this advice. There you go. Oh yes, since suddenly I asked for a break like her, and it does. So I couldn't make myself more available than I have been for 5 years. There, but I don't know. There, I'm sharing an experience. But once again, well, I can't. Let's say I can't not none us. You see, in any case, it struck me. There you go. So there's something else. I have another experience that happened to me more than 10 years ago, between 10 and 15 years ago. It was in the years following my father's death, who died soon. In a few months, my father has died for 16 years. And at the time following this death, well, there was, of course, things were changing. And so there's then danger in the family. And I questioned myself a lot. I didn't understand, if you want. They put all that a little bit like it came to me. You see, I didn't understand. I looked for it, and then I looked for it. I found it. And one day when I got home, when I parked, I thought about it. And suddenly I verbalized something that came to me. And what came to me was, and if nothing had changed. That's what came to me. In fact, I received this message, and so I verbalized it. And at the time, I discovered the MFO. That is to say that by verbalizing it, suddenly Well, you understand. I started to shrink if nothing had changed. Well, yes, my father is no longer there. And in fact, it made full sense because finally, what I understood from this message is that in fact, nothing had changed, anything that was moderate. And that
Sorry, but we have again, the lesson wasn't very good. Wow, but just the same three last ones in the world. That is to say, when you told us that nothing had changed. Well, you excused me a little bit, but we didn't see it. We didn't see it. It's no, really. No, it's also really at both this second time. It's the same. It's at the same time when you give us because in fact, let's say the solution to the riddle. Well, we don't need it. I would say that. There you go. That must be it. That is to say that it is an example of personal. Thanks for sharing. But in fact, since it is really very personal, we do not have that. We do not necessarily need spectators. Do not necessarily need to know what it has changed in your life. What was interesting was the example how it happened. Sentences you repeat, and then on which you realize your personal situation. You see, it's that you summarize as well. There you go. Okay, so we all did that. We gave some small examples. Finally, each one of our personal examples. Well, I wanted to be a little more generalized than a personal example, but okay. So that was this. So indeed, it's in any case, what I have is that I remembered related to the double is that, and well, let's say we have a goal in quotes. It's to make this connection reliable with double. That is to say, to go towards a situation where we are more and more often in contact with our double, and let's say to facilitate our life to really to do our programming as best as possible. Well, CF, a previous show on libraries, and even the final objective for the moment, it is to go towards the merger with the double. That is to say that then the human being and the double would become one. Well, it's still a bit burning as a concept, but what well, I feel like we've talked about it a little bit. Well, it's how to make sure we have more and more contact with our doubts, because it's true that it makes our lives easier. And so, Jean-Luc, could you develop a little bit, for example, on polarity? Because indeed, I think it's really a big point, finally, a very important point. That is to say that if we are in polarity, so the good, the mean, and so on and so forth. And, well, it was finally, we are still in evolution. That is to say, in it's our intellect who leads dance. And with, let's say, every point that society has put on our shoulders, the conditioning, in quotes, of our parents and all that. So we see life according to polarity, and that our double wouldn't like that too much. It's Jean-Luc, and but I don't know if that doesn't have too much of the
in the sense that it doesn't do that too much for us. It's all up, up, up. That's also polarity. There's no passion. He doesn't like that. He likes that. He likes that. I think we can't give a look. So already there are no elements of value. Then we essentially need to have a state. That is to say that it's a bit like cleaning ourselves, cleaning the roof, signing. The mirror is dirty, automatically you won't have a good image of yourself. So to have a contact of your own, a contact net, already you have to send an image that is correct, which is not moratory, without without hopeless, without belief, without polarity, since all this is the same range. You have to essentially be in a state of being asked not to. You have the full of a solution. That's how it is. A point of and since you have the right to information, he's going to give you the solution. I don't know. There's no, uh, there's no, there's a state, the state, and this state of need, this state of making law. That's all. Afterwards, to talk about polarity, everything that makes sure that it's the astral or whatever you want, that will automatically polarize you unless you're pretty clear-headed and stable enough to have mental anger without having one form of blood or clarity.
Okay, because what you're telling me reminds me of, well, many schools of thought, spirituality. So that was before, but still, finally, I was the baby with the bathwater. That is to say that there was a lot of advice that we should have a clear mind. That is to say, not to be distracted by various and varied thoughts. So, as we have seen, that, well, yes, thoughts, well, it's not us who are generous, but are sent to us. Well, it's so, like what you said in your own way, I would say that, well, it's if we consider the image of a lake where there would be our thoughts, that is to say that if our thoughts disrupt the water of the lake, well, the communication that reflects on it, well, it won't be clear. That is to say that, well, if we say to ourselves, well, double sends us communication. I don't know if I'm very clear, but communication, oh, it's not great. Communication is, and well, even if we are subject to lots of thoughts that, well, indeed, the result of external thoughts, especially if they come from the astral, is that they will trigger various and varied emotions that are popping our energy. And indeed, we won't have clear ideas. We will be attached to the result of what we want, and so on. So in fact, it's an attitude to have. Contact. Yes, Paola, we hear you. I'll give you the floor here. Yeah, it's about that. we're going to say to let our thoughts pass and to be really, really wanting a minimum of emotions that make us want to experience. And that's how we will be able to capture what double sends us. That's, yeah. I told you that emotion is even better because emotion will make what you hear vibrate, what you receive, and automatically, as soon as there is an emotion, as soon as there is a questioning and a self-awareness, there is stopping contact. There you go. And the other point too that we find that you said that we also find in really many lessons of thoughts, it's not that, well, it's to do an action, but not to so if we do an action to achieve a certain objective, well, we must have the be disconnected from the result of this action. That is to say, in fact, they are better off reaching the objective, and whether we reach it or not. That is to say, we shouldn't put a point. Well, we shouldn't put a period. We project ourselves onto the result of an action, and if for this action we ask for the help of the double, as you said, we can be in necessity, but well, we shouldn't be emotionally carried away by the result of this action. That is to say, well, you were talking with money. Well, there you go. It's if ever I needed sum of money to achieve such a result. I don't know. I have a castle in France to do seminars on supramental, and then that it really be an absolute result. Well, that it be planned. Well, I don't know, for it to be planned in the various and varied plans. Well, you should not be more motivated than that for it to succeed or for it not to work. Yes,
because normally it's not a full that's
if that's my plan to make work. And if that's not my plan, it won't work and it will be in the order of things. Let's say that if you want to put load on the load of desire in it, it won't work. That's it, that's desire. It's you who missed it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, well, then you connected, you're with us. Then
After, I think what you need is it's to ask them a question, since we all have access to our contact. So all it takes is to ask them the question that we want to hear, not the question, but the answer that we read. It's that they're there, so that's good. That's what's best to do. What is the question? What is the question we want to ask? Okay, and because, well, not everyone hears the voice of others. Well, I hear it.
On the other hand, the contact response is not necessarily words that will cross our brains, and it can be intuitions, situations in life that will happen before us and on which we will realize to say, hey, that's, how to say, that's the response of symbolic contact that I'm going to apply to my situation, to the question. Everything is also said if we start again, like the previous time, when you want to have a course to do seminars, and that's when you're going to have this question that's going to come to your head, in not even verbalized, but what's the goal? And you're going to say it's for a seminar, but what's the goal? You need to
be able to answer this question. Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, but it's to please us, to do well. It's to please us. You're basically that's it. It's that we're not here to please yourself. We're here to make you evolve. Okay, understand what it means. Understand your question. Maybe I don't know. You don't have a question where I'm asked a question, and then we see what they answer me there.
Yeah. Do you have a question about everything in duplicate? Well, it's a clone. Jean-Claude, yes, there. Hello, good evening. Oh, yes, but me, I simply want to listen to what you say. I don't really want to be, but it's the way you want, but this year. You love the speech, I come from a certain side. No, to all those who tell you that they are in a very, how can I say, suffering from delirium, for example, yogurts and the problems of economics, not of it's something that in integral yoga it's well made. That is to say, it's very deep. This question of work is very deep in oneself. So yes, we should perhaps make simple questions and related to consistency and our life. Maybe it's simple. I think understanding your example we gave them at the beginning of the show. So, and everyone begins the show, everyone, because I don't know, at home, but well, I mean, it was, well, to introduce the subject, whereas now we're interested in the way the way we feel that we can personally do to improve more and more one's contact with one's double. So there you have it. That's the point that we're currently working on, you see. And yes, but I have so many persons of the thing that everyone has their own way of solving it. It depends on their own coordinates, right? It's a work. We can't say, that is to say, it can change from person to person, I believe, right? That's a question always related to ego, right? As the ego fades away, then the other thing will take matters into its own hands. I don't know. And although when you talk, you really don't want to put your camera. We don't have a camera. It's not there. No. It's too complicated for me. Well, good. Very good. Well, if you just want to, there are 20 tips to turn off your microphone. Okay. How to do it? I'm not going to. Well, wait, I'm turning on my microphone. Okay, there you go. That's it. There. Like that. You're among us, but you're listening to Round or no. There you go. You want to intervene.
What really intrigues me was to ask a question tonight. Well, no.
It's a bit always reshuffled. Caucasians is yes, because relationship with my contact with David, I think I'm a little more on your side in relation to the fact that suddenly I don't have any opportunity, maybe almost I don't help, I don't talk about things, right?
And I think that depends on the fact that I'm not readjusted for the relationships I've seen. I tend to look for information elsewhere or in our own way. Me, if I can tell myself how I perfection with my double is through everyday experiments. So we increasingly seek to explore, to follow the inspiration of what I have. Well, I'm getting more and more feelings, getting closer, moving away from my double. That's through practice, double-wise. I feel like I'm starting. It's something I did very unconsciously at the beginning of my life. My adolescence and before what? Well, I did that more consciously because suddenly I felt so. Basically, it was only later in recent years where I tried to do that consciously, and even if I find that it can be more complicated, more subtle, it's more interesting because suddenly we are aware of things and we see the results in a clear way. And even when we don't see the results, well, the intuition that says, well, it's for sure, that's why. But okay. You also wanted to intervene, right? Yes.
It's going to be I join what just came to be said in a sense that indeed it joins what I was saying earlier, but in fact it joins everything we just said. That is to say that indeed when I talk about presence, it joins what you said in relation to the fact that the unfiltered thoughts and emotions clearly. And at the same time, that's comes simply because in fact we have daily needs, right? It can range from the need for, I don't know, I have to go shopping. I don't know what to buy food, for example. It's useless. Well, I arrived late at such and such an appointment. Damn, how do I get there too late? But that's not really daily news, and indeed not
simply inscribe myself in the snapshot that the answers come. Well, every time I want to organize, let's say, or project, or visualize, or somewhere anticipate from a say given where it's going, and I'm able to do that. That is to say that, in fact, if before it's not even that, it's a bummer. It's that it's becoming possible that I can almost. It was a bit whooped. Well, I have children. There are things that sometimes organize me. Well, and then finally one day I understood that I couldn't do it anymore and that I didn't want that anymore because it's tiring, it takes energy. Plus, well, what happened to me in any case is that when I thought I had succeeded in organizing something or anticipated something, every time you could be sure that in fact you saw. So suddenly I often signed up for the unexpected. And today, I mean that the unexpected is almost becoming a way of life, so to speak, with fixed things. Well, when the child leaves school, he leaves school, you see. Well, that doesn't move. But the more it goes on, the more you see a stupid example there of microbiota. My birthday son and I arrived late and I was going to be a little behind. And so suddenly, well, we saw that there was a tail. Well, anyway, I'm not just at 2000. I can't get my wings out. I have to wait. So I just warned that I'll have a little delay. And on the way, I was anticipating telling myself, wait, where am I going so that it's the shortest? Well, you see, and while doing that, in fact, I was driving. And in the end, I absolutely didn't have any of the roads opening up to me. And in fact, at the last moment, I said, well, what came to me is, no, you park, you take the scooter, you're going to get it. And by going to get it, so on a scooter, well, then I met another mom who came out of the birthday and who offered to make a walking shoe loan for an outing they have for a week on a school trip. And in fact, I was able to see that if she could lend me a pair, my son was able to go if she had the pair and 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 take the shortest path. Whereas here, in the end, well, I didn't get behind it. It was, there you go, I was able to have a little drink before leaving again. I met this mother, so after I went to her place, so he lowered the shoes, so it's beautiful. He has the walking shoes. Anyway, what I mean is that in the end, everything is by letting the thing happen. I don't know how to say it, but sometimes since I've become aware of that, it's like I do splitting myself. So I'll try to explain it as best as possible. But it's like I do splitting myself a bit like I'm doing a baffle. That is to say that I occupy dizzy with trying to organize as if it created a backdrop, you see, and when this backdrop created, it would allow what backdrops them finally to break through. I don't know how to explain it. It's like I'm bringing tension. That is to say, I'm aware that part of me is trying to do that, but that's not where it's going to happen. But it's like if in this mental noise that happens on one side, the parasites that go there, and that leaves breaches so that the rest guides me. I don't know if that's clear.
There, it's you try, finally, you are in the present moment, you with then in fact you take all the, well, you don't stick to your plan, but it's just a background frame, and then you take all the new things that arrive, like being what's best to do. That's it. There you go. Yes, good. So yeah, it's living in the present moment, not draining your mind. That is to say, giving it a minimum role of organization, planning, but to rebuild it. That is to say, he does a minimum service, and he's not the one in control. That's what
I'm trying to implement, knowing that I'm giving him his seed to grind, because, well, he still needs seeds that must be reassured. Maybe you have SARS, you make a plan to reassure your mind, that's it, but it won't be him who will be in command, That's it. Well, we'll get there. That's good.
Okay. Well, Paola is. Do you want to add something? Wait. So I'm giving you your microphone. I hope that I can't reactivate. Well, no, I could take it off, but I can't give it to you. So I'm sorry. I'm
I'm a runner. That's saying, it was another way of saying it. That is to say that more contact with our, finally, we're going to say, we're more inspired. I say it with my words when the ego fades, and it was very important. It's your way of saying it and saying pretty much the same thing. Yes, I'm still. To go a little deeper into the messages from Bernard de Montréal, everything is that I just went to Bondo, so I'm very happy, and the echoes, and I would like to understand the doubles. That is to say, it's the care, where self, the superior care that Robin talks about. I believe exactly. If you want, we only have 1 hour. So
We don't really know what double is. We talked about it several times. On the other hand, we know that he sends us information, which helps us in our lives, and there you have it. How this information helps us. Well, the goal of this show tonight was what can we do at our level so that we have more and more information of this double. You see, as long as we still know what this double is. Well, I don't know. I can say non-impression. Maybe it's like
was like the best version of ourselves. Practically, we have to become even more. Yes, that's it. Yes, that's it. And so we have to.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I said, Momo. It's emergent. So emergent is also something a bit nebulous again. That's it. That's there. There's the human being who's going to get together. Well, I don't really know how it happens, but hey, okay. That is to say that instead of it being something external that makes us this information that we need, and well, it seems to me that after the merger we have this information live. It seems to me, well, it's at that moment that we know everything. Well, after that, it's called, here is the figure of our losing angels. Prefer not to go on this ground, the terrain of religion there. It's too connoted, right? Do that. We're not talking about, we're not understanding the vocabulary. Okay. Well, thank you, Paola. In any case, we've soon finished the show there. Well, is Raed or Jean-Luc that you want to bounce on what was said? And
what I don't know anymore, it's Marie-Olympe who said that we should make ourselves available. That's absolutely it. It's like a little bit. When you want to listen to someone, you have to be unavailable to listen to them, because otherwise you don't hear it. And the fact is that when you ask questions to your contact, or questions are twofold, you shouldn't have the not desire, but wanting that to answer right away, not being impatient. That's it. That's what I was searching for. You shouldn't be patient. You just have to be relaxed, because from time to time it responds, but much later. So it can respond within 5 minutes. It can respond within 3 minutes. It can respond within the hour, or maybe not during the day, but within 2 easy hours. Well, of course, we say to ourselves, hey, he has his life, he lives his life, or he is somewhere else. Well, he doesn't have to always be, low to be able to answer. He can do something else. But you have to realize that it's not always immediate, except sometimes where really when he gets closer, when he's very close to himself, in which case it can be very, very quick. It can be very, very immediate. It can even be very pressing. It's the same for the individual, for oneself. What? That's what I want to tell you about it. So you have to be available. It comes when it wants. It comes when it wants to play. Fuck. Okay. Thanks, Jean-Luc. Prague.
I'm talking about other things too. Stereotype. Anyway, yes, well, go ahead. I don't know if it can be That is to say, when there is this experience, even of a second of merger, it is the moments when we are also out of identity with the thing. We know, no, there are no divisions, no separations. It is a magical moment of grace, practically. It is that I come out of, yes, it is, yes, finally. Will be, understand what you're saying. It's yes, we do one, we only do two with the subject that interests us.
Yes, or the object too, or the object. Whoa.
Knowledge gained by dignity, practically, because everything is one. Yes, yes, everything is one. But anyway, it's a very, very broad subject, and it's true that in the books of Serdondo, it covers a few hundred pages, even a few thousand.
10,000. Okay, very good. Well, not for tonight, huh? And especially at 9:02 p.m. we did an hour show. Well, listen, thank you all for coming to participate. It was very nice, and if you like, thank you, and thank you again. And that's next Sunday. So the subject is to finish with the polarity, and there you go. I think so. Well, yes, that is to say that precisely there we said, well, polarity is what prevents us from having a good connection with our double. And well, we'll go deeper into the subject next Sunday. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. Yes, good evening. Goodbye.